The weight of the past. Michael Carter sat alone in his dimly lit apartment, the flickering glow of the television casting long shadows across the room. It was the eve of what would have been his 15th anniversary with Sarah Miller, his late fiancée. The air was thick with the scent of whiskey and regret, and the soft hum of the refrigerator was the only sound breaking the oppressive silence. Michael, once a celebrated actor known for his charismatic presence and versatile talent, now struggled to find meaning in his life. The past 15 years had been a blur of rehearsals, film sets, and award shows, but none of it brought him the solace he so desperately sought. His mind drifted back to the days when Sarah was still with him, the memories as vivid as if they had happened yesterday. Flashback to 15 years ago. The sun was setting over the Los Angeles skyline, casting a warm golden hue over the city. Michael and Sarah were sitting on the balcony of their apartment, their hands entwined as they watched the sky turn shades of pink and orange. Sarah's laughter filled the air, a sound that Michael had come to cherish more than anything in the world. "Can you believe it, Mike? In just a few months, we'll be married," Sarah said, her eyes sparkling with joy. Michael smiled, squeezing her hand. "I can't wait to call you my wife, Sarah. You're the best thing that ever happened to me." They shared a tender kiss, the kind that spoke of promises and forever. Michael's heart swelled with love and happiness, feeling like the luckiest man alive. Present-day Michael's heart ached as the memory faded. He took another sip of whiskey, hoping to drown the pain that gnawed at his soul. Sarah had been everything to him, his muse, his confidant, his anchor. Her sudden death in a car accident had shattered his world, leaving him to navigate the wreckage alone. He closed his eyes, the image of Sarah's smiling face etched into his mind. He could still hear her voice, feel her touch, and smell the faint scent of her favorite perfume. The memories were a double-edged sword, offering both comfort and torment. Flashback to the day of the accident. It was a rainy afternoon, and Michael was on the set of his latest movie, engrossed in a particularly challenging scene. His phone buzzed in his pocket, but he ignored it, focusing on his lines. It wasn't until a crew member tapped him on the shoulder that he realized something was wrong. "Michael, you need to take this call. It's urgent," the crew member said, his face pale. Michael's heart pounded as he took the phone, dread creeping into his veins. The voice on the other end delivered the news that shattered his world. Sarah had been in a car accident and was in critical condition. He raced to the hospital, his mind a whirlwind of fear and disbelief. By the time he arrived, it was too late. Sarah was gone, leaving behind a void that could never be filled. Present-day tears streamed down Michael's face as he relived the moment he lost Sarah. The weight of the past pressed heavily on his shoulders, a burden he couldn't shake. Every day since her death had been a struggle, a battle to keep going when all he wanted was to be with her again. He looked around his apartment, the walls adorned with photos of their time together. Each picture told a story of love, laughter, and dreams that would never be realized. Michael's eyes lingered on a particular photo, their engagement party. Sarah's smile was radiant, her eyes filled with hope for the future. "Why did you have to leave me, Sarah?" Michael whispered, his voice choked with emotion. "I can't do this without you." His phone buzzed on the coffee table, snapping him out of his reverie. It was a message from his best friend, David, checking in on him as he always did around this time of year. Michael knew he should respond, but the effort seemed monumental. Instead, he turned off his phone and reached for the bottle of whiskey. As the night wore on, Michael sank deeper into his memories, losing himself in the past. The pain of Sarah's absence was a constant reminder of what he had lost, and he couldn't see a way forward. The once bright and promising future he had envisioned with Sarah was now a dark and lonely path, and Michael was left to walk it alone. In the quiet of his apartment, surrounded by ghosts of the past, Michael Carter struggled to find a reason to keep going. The weight of the past was heavy, and the future seemed unbearably bleak without Sarah by his side. Michael Carter sat in the back seat of a black SUV, the rolling hills and lush landscapes of the countryside stretching out before him. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden glow over the fields and forests, and the gentle hum of the engine provided a soothing backdrop to his turbulent thoughts. He had decided to attend a spiritual retreat at a remote property, hoping to find some semblance of peace and maybe, just maybe, a way to move forward without Sarah. As the car navigated the winding roads, Michael's mind drifted back to a moment with Sarah, one that seemed to perfectly encapsulate the joy they had shared. Flashback to a trip with Sarah. They were driving along the Pacific Coast Highway in a convertible, the wind whipping through Sarah's hair as she laughed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. The ocean stretched out to their left, waves crashing against the cliffs below. "Isn't this amazing, Mike?" Sarah shouted over the wind, her voice filled with pure, unadulterated happiness. Michael smiled, his heart swelling with love for the woman beside him. "It sure is, babe. I wish we could stay like this forever." Sarah reached over and squeezed his hand. "Who says we can't? Let's just keep driving, see where the road takes us." Present day Michael's heart ached at the memory. He closed his eyes, willing himself to focus on the present. The retreat was supposed to be a new beginning, a chance to heal. But the weight of his grief was a constant companion, ever-present and relentless. The SUV pulled up to a large iron gate, which creaked open slowly to reveal a long driveway lined with ancient oak trees. The property was vast and serene, a stark contrast to the bustling city Michael had left behind. As the car came to a stop in front of a sprawling farmhouse, a tall man with graying hair and a warm smile approached. "Welcome to Harmony Hill Retreat," the man said, opening the car door for Michael. "I'm David, the caretaker here. We're glad you could join us." Michael stepped out of the car, taking in the surroundings. The farmhouse was rustic yet charming, with ivy climbing up the stone walls and flower beds bursting with color. The air was crisp and clean, filled with the scent of pine and fresh earth. "Thank you, David. It's beautiful here," Michael replied, trying to muster a genuine smile. David nodded. "Come on inside, and I'll show you to your room. Dinner is in an hour, and then we'll have a welcome gathering by the fire." As they walked through the front door, Michael felt a sense of calm wash over him. The interior was cozy and inviting, with wooden beams overhead and soft lighting casting a warm glow. The walls were adorned with paintings of landscapes and portraits, each telling a story of its own. David led Michael up a creaky staircase to a small, comfortable room overlooking the garden. A quilted bedspread, an antique dresser, and a vase of fresh flowers on the windowsill made the space feel homely. "This will be your room for the duration of the retreat," David said, handing Michael a key. "If you need anything, just let me know." Michael nodded his thanks, setting his bag down on the bed. As he unpacked, his thoughts wandered once again to Sarah. He could almost hear her voice, feel her presence beside him. Flashback to their last night together. They were sitting on the balcony of their apartment, a bottle of wine between them. The city lights twinkled in the distance, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the potted plants Sarah had lovingly tended. "Promise me we'll always be like this," Sarah had said, her head resting on Michael's shoulder. "No matter what happens, we'll always have each other." Michael had kissed the top of her head, his heart full. "I promise, Sarah, always and forever." Present day, a knock on the door pulled Michael from his reverie. It was David, reminding him that dinner was ready. Michael took a deep breath, steeling himself for the evening ahead. He hoped that the retreat would offer some distraction from his memories, a chance to find a way forward. The dining room was filled with the warm aroma of home-cooked food. A long table was set with a variety of dishes, from roasted vegetables to hearty stews. The other retreat participants were already seated, chatting quietly amongst themselves. Michael took a seat at the end of the table, nodding politely to those around him. Across from him sat Emma, a woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. She was about his age, with auburn hair that fell in soft waves around her face. As they introduced themselves, Michael found himself drawn to her warmth and sincerity. "Hi, I'm Emma," she said, extending her hand. "It's nice to meet you." "Michael," he replied, shaking her hand. "Nice to meet you too." As they talked, Michael felt a flicker of something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Emma shared her own story of loss and healing, and for the first time since Sarah's death, Michael felt understood. The evening passed in a blur of conversation and laughter, the first of many steps on his journey to healing. Later, as the group gathered around the fire, Michael found himself opening up more than he had in years. The warmth of the flames, the crackle of the logs, and the comforting presence of his fellow retreat-goers created a sense of belonging he hadn't realized he was missing. Emma sat beside him, her presence a steady anchor. They talked late into the night, sharing stories and dreams. As Michael looked into the fire, he felt a sense of peace settling over him. The road ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time, he felt ready to face it. In the quiet moments before sleep, Michael whispered a silent thank you to Sarah. He knew she would always be a part of him, but it was time to start living again. The retreat had only just begun, but already, he could feel the healing power of this place and the people he had met. The morning sun filtered through the leaves, casting dappled light across the garden at Harmony Hill Retreat. Michael Carter wandered aimlessly, the serene beauty of the flowers and plants doing little to soothe his restless mind. His thoughts were a tangled mess of memories and emotions, each step reminding him of Sarah. He reached a secluded corner of the garden where a woman was kneeling, tending to a bed of vibrant flowers. Her auburn hair shone in the sunlight, and as she turned her head slightly, Michael's heart nearly stopped. The resemblance was uncanny. She looked just like Sarah. "Excuse me," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The woman looked up, her green eyes meeting his. Michael felt a jolt of recognition. It was as if he were staring into Sarah's eyes. "Hello," she said, a warm smile spreading across her face. "You must be Michael. I'm Emma Blake, the gardener here." Michael struggled to find his voice.
Emma.
"Yes, I'm Michael. It's nice to meet you." Emma stood up, brushing dirt from her hands. She wore a simple blue dress and a wide-brimmed hat, giving her an almost ethereal quality. Michael couldn't help but stare, overwhelmed by the similarities. "Are you all right?" Emma asked, a hint of concern in her eyes. Michael shook himself, trying to focus. "Yes, I'm fine. It's just, you remind me of someone I used to know." Emma's smile softened. "I get that a lot. People often say I have one of those familiar faces." Michael nodded, not trusting himself to speak further on the subject. He watched as Emma returned to her work, her movements graceful and purposeful. Despite the initial shock, he felt an inexplicable pull towards her, a curiosity that demanded he learn more about this woman who so closely resembled his lost love. "Do you mind if I join you?" Michael asked, gesturing to the flowers. "Not at all," Emma replied, handing him a small trowel. "I could use the help. These flower beds don't tend themselves." Michael knelt beside her, the scent of the earth and flowers filling his senses. They worked in companionable silence for a while, the only sounds being the rustle of leaves and the chirping of birds. Finally, Michael couldn't resist any longer. "So, how long have you been here at Harmony Hill?" he asked. Emma paused, thinking. "About 3 years now. I came here after I needed a fresh start. This place has a way of healing wounds." Michael glanced at her, seeing a flicker of pain in her eyes. "I know what you mean. I came here for the same reason." Emma looked at him with a mixture of understanding and sympathy. "It's a wonderful place for that. There's something about being close to nature that makes everything a little easier to bear." Michael nodded, feeling a connection forming. "Sarah, my fiancée, she loved gardening. She always said it was her way of finding peace." Emma's eyes softened further. "I'm sorry for your loss, Michael. It's never easy losing someone you love." "Thank you," Michael said quietly. "It's been 15 years, but some days it feels like it just happened." Emma reached out, placing a hand on his arm. "Grief is a journey, not a destination. It takes time, and it's okay to take as much time as you need." Her touch was warm and reassuring, and for a moment, Michael felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he could find a way to move forward. They continued working, the conversation flowing more easily as they shared stories of their lives and the paths that had led them to Harmony Hill. As the sun climbed higher, casting a golden light over the garden, Michael found himself laughing at one of Emma's stories. The sound felt foreign and yet incredibly freeing. Emma had a way of making him forget his pain, even if only for a little while. Later, as they packed up their tools and prepared to head back to the farmhouse for lunch, Michael felt a strange sense of anticipation. He was looking forward to spending more time with Emma, to learning more about her, and perhaps finding a new beginning for himself. "Thank you for letting me help," Michael said as they walked back. "I enjoyed it more than I expected." Emma smiled. "Anytime, Michael. It's nice to have company. And who knows, maybe you'll find a new passion for gardening." Michael chuckled. "Maybe I will." As they approached the farmhouse, Michael's mind was a whirl with thoughts of Sarah and Emma, the past and the future. For the first time in a long while, he felt a flicker of excitement about what lay ahead, a glimmer of hope that perhaps, amidst the flowers and sunshine, he might find a way to heal. The afternoon sun cast a warm glow over the retreat, filling the garden with a golden light. Michael and Emma were sitting on a weathered wooden bench, enjoying a moment of rest after hours of gardening. Emma's laughter rang out as she recounted a funny story from her childhood, and Michael found himself smiling despite the ever-present weight of his grief. As Emma shifted to brush a stray lock of hair from her face, something caught Michael's eye. Around her neck hung a delicate silver chain with a small, intricately designed pendant. His heart skipped a beat as he recognized it. It was the exact same necklace he had given to Sarah on their first anniversary. "Emma," Michael began, his voice barely steady, "that necklace, where did you get it?" Emma looked down at the pendant, her fingers gently tracing its shape. "This? It was a gift from my grandmother. She told me it was a family heirloom, passed down through generations." Michael's mind raced. The pendant was unique, custom-made by a jeweler he and Sarah had found in a small shop during a trip to New York. He remembered the day vividly. Flashback to New York with Sarah, they were strolling through the bustling streets of Manhattan, hand in hand, when they stumbled upon a quaint little jewelry shop. The window display caught Sarah's eye, and she tugged Michael inside. "Look at this one, Mike," Sarah had said, pointing to the delicate silver necklace with a pendant shaped like a teardrop, adorned with tiny, intricate designs. "It's beautiful." Michael had seen the delight in her eyes and knew he had to buy it for her. "We'll take it," he told the jeweler, and Sarah's smile had lit up the entire room. Present day Michael's hands trembled slightly as he reached out to touch the pendant around Emma's neck. "This necklace," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "I gave one just like it to my fiancée, Sarah." Emma's eyes widened in surprise. "Really? That's such a strange coincidence. My grandmother never mentioned where she got it, only that it was special." Michael's mind was a whirl with questions. How could this be? Was it possible that there were two identical necklaces, or was there a deeper connection between Emma and Sarah? His curiosity and suspicion grew with each passing second. "Do you mind if I take a closer look?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Emma nodded, her expression one of curiosity and concern. She unclasped the necklace and handed it to Michael, who examined it closely. Every detail matched the one he had given to Sarah, the intricate designs, the tiny initials engraved on the back. "It's exactly the same," Michael murmured, more to himself than to Emma. "This pendant has the same initials I had engraved for Sarah. How is that possible?" Emma looked bewildered. "I have no idea, Michael. My grandmother never told me much about it, just that it was important to our family." Michael's mind raced as he tried to piece together the puzzle. Could there be a connection between Emma's family and Sarah? Or was it all just a bizarre coincidence? He needed answers, and he needed them now. "Emma, would you mind if I asked your grandmother about this? I know it sounds strange, but this pendant is so significant to me, and I need to understand how it ended up here." Emma hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Of course, Michael. My grandmother lives nearby. We can visit her tomorrow and ask her about it." Relief washed over Michael. "Thank you, Emma. I appreciate it more than you know." As they walked back to the farmhouse, Michael's thoughts were a whirlwind of emotions. The appearance of the necklace had opened up old wounds, but it had also reignited his determination to find closure. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this story, and he was determined to uncover the truth. That night, as he lay in bed, Michael's mind wandered back to Sarah. He remembered the way she had smiled when he gave her the necklace, the way her eyes had sparkled with love and joy. He wondered what Sarah would think of all this, if she had somehow guided him to Emma, if this was her way of helping him find peace. The next day, Michael and Emma set out to visit her grandmother, the anticipation and anxiety palpable in the air. As they drove through the winding country roads, Michael's heart pounded in his chest. He hoped that the answers he sought would bring him one step closer to healing, and perhaps even a new beginning. Emma's grandmother lived in a charming cottage surrounded by blooming flowers and towering trees. She greeted them warmly, her eyes twinkling with wisdom and kindness. "Grandma," Emma said, her voice gentle, "Michael has some questions about the necklace you gave me. He says it's identical to one he gave his fiancée." The elderly woman looked at the pendant, her expression thoughtful. "Ah, yes. That necklace has quite a history. It was given to me by a dear friend many years ago. She said it was a symbol of love and hope, and that it would bring comfort to those who wore it." Michael leaned forward, his curiosity piqued. "Do you remember who gave it to you, or where they got it?" The grandmother nodded slowly. "Her name was Margaret. She was a close friend of mine, and she told me that the necklace had been made by a jeweler in New York. She never mentioned who it was for, but she said it had a special significance." Michael's heart raced. Could it be that Margaret had known Sarah? Or perhaps there was another connection he hadn't yet discovered. "Do you know where I could find Margaret?" Michael asked, hope and desperation mingling in his voice. The grandmother smiled sadly. "I'm afraid Margaret passed away many years ago, but she left behind a diary, and I believe it might have some answers for you." Emma's grandmother retrieved an old, leather-bound diary from a dusty shelf and handed it to Michael. His hands trembled as he opened it, the pages filled with Margaret's elegant handwriting. As he read through the diary, he found entries detailing Margaret's life, her friendships, and her travels. And then, he found a passage that made his heart stop. "Today, I met a wonderful young woman named Sarah. She reminded me so much of myself when I was her age. We talked for hours, and I decided to give her the necklace. I told her it would bring her love and hope, just as it had for me." Tears filled Michael's eyes as he read the words. Sarah had known Margaret, and the necklace had indeed been a gift of love and hope. The connection between Emma and Sarah was more profound than he had ever imagined. Michael closed the diary, his heart filled with a mixture of sadness and relief. He looked at Emma, who had been watching him with a mixture of curiosity and concern. "Thank you," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "You've helped me find a piece of Sarah that I thought I'd lost forever." Emma reached out and took his hand, her touch warm and comforting. "I'm glad I could help, Michael. Maybe this is a sign that you're on the right path, that Sarah is still with you in spirit." Michael nodded, feeling a sense of peace he hadn't felt in years. The mystery of the necklace had brought him closer to Sarah and to Emma, and he felt ready to face whatever the future held. The early morning sun cast a gentle light over Harmony Hill Retreat, the air filled with the scent of blooming flowers and fresh earth. Michael found himself drawn to the garden once more, where Emma was already hard at work. He watched her for a moment, admiring the way she moved with such grace and purpose. Taking a deep breath, Michael approached her cautiously. "Good morning, Emma," he said, his voice soft. Emma looked up, a warm smile spreading across her face. "Good morning, Michael. How are you today?" "Better, I think," he replied, kneeling down beside her. "Mind if I join you?" "Not at all," Emma said, handing him a pair of gloves. "I could use the help." They worked side by side in comfortable silence for a while, the rhythmic motions of planting and weeding soothing Michael's troubled mind. Finally, he broke the silence, his voice hesitant. "Emma, I want to thank you for yesterday. Talking to your grandmother, finding out about the necklace. It meant a lot to me." Emma paused, looking at him with kind eyes. "I'm glad I could help, Michael. Sometimes, the past has a way of finding us when we least expect it." Michael nodded, feeling a pang of sadness mixed with a strange sense of hope. Sarah was everything to me. Losing her, it broke something inside me. I never thought I'd find any kind of peace again. Emma's expression softened. "I understand that kind of pain. Losing someone you love, it leaves a void nothing can fill. But sometimes, we find ways to cope, to heal. It's not about forgetting them, but about finding a way to live with their memory." Michael glanced at her, curious. "You speak as if you've experienced it yourself?" Emma nodded slowly, her eyes distant. "I have. My parents died in a car accident when I was a teenager. It was sudden, and I was left alone. My grandmother took me in, but the pain never really goes away. I'm so sorry, Emma, Michael said, his voice filled with empathy. I can't imagine how hard that must have been. It was, Emma admitted, her voice barely above a whisper, but it also made me who I am today. It taught me to appreciate the little things, to find joy in the moments we have. Michael felt a deep connection forming between them, their shared experiences creating an unspoken bond. You seem so strong, so at peace with everything. How did you manage that? Emma smiled wistfully. It wasn't easy. I had to learn to let go of the anger, the bitterness. I found solace in nature, in the simplicity of life here, and in helping others, like you. Michael was silent for a moment, absorbing her words. I want to find that peace too, Emma, but it's hard. Every time I think I'm moving forward, something pulls me back. Emma reached out, placing a comforting hand on his arm. It's a journey, Michael. There will be setbacks, but it's important to keep moving, to keep opening your heart, even when it feels impossible. He looked at her, feeling a warmth spread through him. Thank you, Emma. You're right. I need to take it one step at a time. They continued working, their conversation weaving between lighthearted topics and deeper, more personal reflections. Michael found himself laughing at Emma's stories, her laughter infectious and uplifting. He shared memories of Sarah, moments of joy and sorrow, feeling lighter with each word. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, they took a break, sitting on the garden bench with cool glasses of lemonade. The air was filled with the sounds of birds chirping and leaves rustling in the breeze. Tell me more about yourself, Emma, Michael said, genuinely curious. What brought you to Harmony Hill? Emma sighed, her eyes thoughtful. After my parents died, I struggled to find my place in the world. I tried different jobs, different cities, but nothing felt right. My grandmother suggested I come here to reconnect with nature and find some peace. And she was right. This place has a magic of its own. Michael nodded, understanding. It really does. I've only been here a short time, but I already feel a difference. Like there's a weight lifting, slowly but surely. Emma smiled. That's the beauty of this place. It gives you the space to heal, to rediscover yourself, and to meet new people, to form new connections. Michael felt a surge of hope. I'm glad I met you, Emma. You've helped me more than you know. I'm glad I met you too, Michael, Emma said softly. Maybe we can help each other find the peace we're looking for. Their eyes met, and for a moment, Michael felt a spark of something he hadn't felt in years. It was a small flicker of hope, a promise of new beginnings. As they sat together in the tranquil garden, Michael felt a sense of possibility, a belief that he could find his way forward with Emma by his side. The day passed in a blur of shared work and conversation, each moment bringing them closer together. By the time the sun set, casting a warm glow over the retreat, Michael felt a sense of contentment he hadn't known in years. That night, as he lay in bed, Michael's thoughts were filled with Emma. He thought of her strength, her kindness, and the way her eyes sparkled when she laughed. He realized that for the first time since Sarah's death, he was beginning to feel something new, hope. The evening air was cool and crisp as Michael and Emma sat on the porch of the farmhouse, the stars beginning to twinkle in the twilight sky. They each held a cup of steaming tea, the warmth of the mugs a comforting contrast to the chill of the night. The flickering light from a lantern cast dancing shadows, creating an intimate atmosphere that invited deep conversation. Emma, Michael began cautiously, I've been thinking a lot about the necklace and the stories your grandmother shared. There are so many coincidences between your past and Sarah's. I can't help but feel there's more to this than just chance. Emma took a deep breath, her fingers lightly touching the pendant around her neck. I know it seems strange, Michael. I've thought about it too. Let me tell you more about my family and the history of this necklace. Maybe it will help make sense of it all. Michael nodded, eager to hear more. He leaned forward slightly, his eyes fixed on Emma as she began to speak. My grandmother, Margaret, was an extraordinary woman, Emma said, her voice tinged with affection. She was born in a small village and lived a modest life, but she always had a kind heart and a generous spirit. This necklace, she continued, holding up the pendant, was given to her by her best friend, Sarah Johnson. Michael's heart skipped a beat at the mention of the name. Sarah Johnson? That's my Sarah's mother's name. Emma's eyes widened in surprise. Really? That's quite a coincidence. My grandmother always spoke highly of Sarah Johnson. They were like sisters, even though they came from very different backgrounds. Sarah's family was wealthy, and she had a life of privilege, but she never let that come between them. Michael listened intently, the pieces of the puzzle slowly coming together in his mind. Tell me more about their friendship, he urged. Emma nodded. Sarah Johnson was a traveler, always seeking new adventures. She met my grandmother while visiting our village. Despite their differences, they formed a deep bond. Sarah gave my grandmother this necklace as a symbol of their friendship and a promise to stay connected, no matter where life took them. Michael's thoughts raced as he processed Emma's words. Do you know if Sarah Johnson had any children? He asked, his voice barely steady. Emma frowned, thinking back. I believe she did mention a daughter once, but I don't know much about her. My grandmother, and I never really talked about it in detail. Michael's heart ached with a mix of hope and sorrow. My Sarah's mother never spoke much about her past. She was a private person, but I always felt there was more to her story. Emma's eyes softened with understanding. It sounds like there are a lot of parallels between our families. It's almost as if fate brought us together. Michael nodded, feeling a strange sense of connection and destiny. I think you're right. It's like our lives were meant to intersect, to bring these stories full circle. Emma smiled gently. There's one more thing I haven't told you. When my grandmother passed away, she left me a letter. In it, she explained the significance of the necklace and urged me to find Sarah Johnson's family. She believed that our destinies were intertwined and that I would find answers and healing through this connection. Michael felt a surge of emotion, a mixture of sadness and relief. Emma, I think your grandmother was right. This necklace, our meeting, it's all too much to be just coincidence. Emma reached out, taking Michael's hand in hers. We've both been through so much, Michael. Maybe this is our chance to find peace, to honor the memories of those we've lost and build something new together. Michael squeezed her hand, feeling a warmth and comfort he hadn't known in years. I'd like that, Emma. I really would. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their shared history settling between them. The night was filled with the sounds of nature. The rustling of leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, the soft chirping of crickets. It was a peaceful silence, one that spoke of healing and new beginnings. Emma took a deep breath, her eyes shining with a mixture of hope and determination. Michael, I think we should visit the village where my grandmother grew up. There might be more clues there, more connections to uncover. Michael nodded, feeling a sense of purpose and direction. I agree. Let's go there and see what we can find. Together. As they planned their journey, Michael couldn't help but feel that he was on the brink of something profound. The revelations about Emma's past and the strange coincidences with Sarah's story were leading him toward a deeper understanding and, perhaps, a path to healing. In the quiet of the night, with the stars shining brightly above, Michael and Emma felt a sense of unity and hope. Their journey was just beginning, but already, the bonds they were forming promised to be strong and enduring. As the lantern's light flickered and the night grew darker, Michael felt a warmth in his heart that had long been missing. He looked at Emma, grateful for her presence and the shared journey they were about to embark on. For the first time in years, he felt truly alive, ready to face whatever the future held. The sun had just begun to dip below the horizon, casting a warm orange glow over Harmony Hill Retreat. Michael couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to the connection between Emma and Sarah. The coincidences were too many, too precise, and the sense of destiny too strong. It was as if the universe itself had orchestrated their meeting. Michael found himself pacing the garden, the scent of blooming flowers mingling with the cool evening air. Emma had mentioned a local medium who was reputed to have a gift for connecting with the spirit world. Though skeptical, Michael couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that there might be more to explore. He decided to visit the medium the next day, hoping to find answers. The following morning, Michael made his way to the small, cozy cottage on the outskirts of town, where the medium, Clara, lived. The cottage was quaint, surrounded by a riot of colorful flowers, and the gentle hum of bees. As Michael approached the door, he felt a mix of anticipation and apprehension. Clara greeted him with a warm smile, her eyes twinkling with a knowing light. She was a petite woman with silver hair that cascaded down her back, and she moved with a grace that belied her age. "Welcome, Michael," she said, her voice soft and soothing. "I've been expecting you." Michael blinked in surprise. "You have?" Clara nodded, gesturing for him to enter. "The spirits have a way of letting me know when someone important is coming. Please, have a seat." Michael sat down in a comfortable armchair, the room filled with the scent of lavender and sage. Clara settled across from him, her gaze steady and reassuring. "I understand you're seeking answers about a connection between two souls," Clara said, her eyes never leaving his. Michael nodded, feeling a lump form in his throat. "Yes, Emma and Sarah. There are so many coincidences, so many strange connections. I need to know if there's something more, something supernatural." Clara smiled gently. "The bond between souls can transcend time and space. Let us see what the spirits have to reveal." She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, her hands resting lightly on the table between them. The air in the room seemed to shift, growing cooler, and Michael felt a tingling sensation at the back of his neck. Clara began to speak in a soft, melodic tone. "Spirits of the past, we seek your guidance. Reveal to us the connection between these souls, the paths they have crossed and the ties that bind them." A shiver ran down Michael's spine as the room grew silent. He watched Clara intently, his heart pounding in his chest. After a moment, she opened her eyes, her expression serene. "There is a strong bond between Emma and Sarah," Clara said. "Their souls are intertwined, connected by love and loss. Sarah's spirit has been watching over you, Michael, guiding you to Emma. She believes that through this connection, you can find the healing you seek." Michael's eyes widened, his breath catching in his throat. "Sarah has been watching over me? Why didn't I feel her?" Clara's gaze softened. "Grief can cloud our senses, making it difficult to perceive the presence of our loved ones. But Sarah's love for you is strong, and she has been trying to reach you through Emma." Michael felt tears well up in his eyes. "What do I do now? How do I honor this connection?" Clara smiled, her eyes full of wisdom. "Embrace it, Michael. Open your heart to Emma, to the possibilities that lie ahead. Trust that Sarah's spirit will continue to guide you." Michael nodded, feeling a sense of peace settle over him. "Thank you, Clara. This means more to me than you know." Clara reached across the table, taking his hand in hers. "Remember, Michael, love never dies. It transforms and continues to touch our lives in ways we may not always understand." As Michael left Clara's cottage, the sun was setting, painting the sky with hues of pink and gold. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, a belief that Sarah's spirit was indeed guiding him toward healing and new beginnings with Emma. That evening, Michael found Emma in the garden, tending to the flowers as usual. She looked up as he approached, her smile lighting up her face. "How was your visit with Clara?" she asked, her voice gentle. Michael took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the day's revelations. "It was enlightening. She told me that Sarah's spirit is watching over us, guiding us. It's hard to believe, but it feels right." Emma's eyes softened with understanding. "I've always believed that the ones we love never truly leave us. They find ways to stay with us, to help us when we need it most." Michael reached out, taking Emma's hand in his. "I want to honor that connection, Emma. I want to open my heart to the possibilities ahead, with you." Emma squeezed his hand, her eyes shining with warmth. "We'll take it one step at a time, Michael. Together." As they stood in the twilight, surrounded by the beauty of the garden, Michael felt a sense of hope and renewal. The path ahead was still uncertain, but with Emma by his side and Sarah's spirit guiding him, he knew he could face whatever came next. The night air was filled with the sounds of crickets and the gentle rustle of leaves, a serene backdrop to the beginning of a new chapter in Michael's life. He looked at Emma, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and anticipation. The connections, both earthly and spiritual, were leading him toward healing, and for the first time in years, he felt ready to embrace the future. The early morning mist clung to the ground as Michael and Emma made their way to the old barn at the edge of Harmony Hill Retreat. The barn had stood there for decades, its weathered wood and rusting hinges a testament to the passage of time. Michael felt a sense of anticipation, wondering what secrets they might uncover within its walls. "Are you ready?" Emma asked, her eyes bright with curiosity. Michael nodded, taking a deep breath. "Let's see what we can find." Together, they pushed open the heavy barn doors, which creaked in protest. Dust motes danced in the shafts of sunlight that pierced through the gaps in the wooden walls. The interior was filled with old farming equipment, stacks of hay, and a faint scent of nostalgia. Emma led the way to a corner where several old trunks were stacked haphazardly. "These have been here for as long as I can remember," she said. "I've always wondered what's inside." Michael knelt beside the largest trunk, brushing away the dust that had settled on its lid. He pried it open, revealing a collection of old books, papers, and various trinkets. Emma joined him, her fingers gently sifting through the contents. "Look at this," she said, pulling out a leather-bound journal. The cover was worn, but the initials SJ were still visible. This must have belonged to Sarah Johnson. Michael's heart raced as he took the journal from Emma. He opened it carefully, the pages brittle with age. Inside, he found handwritten entries detailing Sarah Johnson's travels and adventures. The entries were filled with vivid descriptions of places she had visited, people she had met, and the emotions she had experienced. "These entries are incredible," Michael said, his voice filled with awe. "It's like stepping into her world." Emma nodded, her eyes scanning the pages. "There's so much history here. Look at this entry from when she visited the village where your Sarah's mother lived. She writes about meeting a young woman named Margaret and how they became fast friends." Michael's eyes widened. "That's my Sarah's grandmother. This is amazing." As they continued to explore the trunk, Emma pulled out an old, ornate box. The wood was intricately carved with floral patterns, and the brass latch gleamed in the dim light. She opened it slowly, revealing a collection of jewelry, letters, and photographs. "These must have been precious to her," Emma said softly. "Look at this necklace. It's just like mine." Michael felt a shiver run down his spine. "Another connection," he murmured. "It's almost as if these objects are speaking to us, telling us their story." They carefully examined each item, piecing together the fragments of Sarah Johnson's life. Among the letters, they found correspondence between Sarah Johnson and Margaret, detailing their deep friendship and the challenges they faced. There were also photographs of the two women together, their smiles radiating warmth and camaraderie. "These letters are beautiful," Emma said, her voice tinged with emotion. "They talk about their hopes and dreams, their fears and triumphs. It's like reading a love story between friends." Michael felt a deep sense of connection to the past. It's incredible to think that our lives are so intertwined with theirs. It's almost like destiny brought us here to uncover these stories. Emma looked at him, her eyes shining with understanding. Maybe it did. Maybe we were meant to find these pieces of the past and carry their legacy forward. As they continued to explore the barn, they found more relics of the past. Old photographs of the property, maps of the surrounding area, and even a tattered diary from one of the original owners of Harmony Hill. Each discovery added another layer to the rich tapestry of history that surrounded them. "Look at this map," Michael said, unrolling a yellowed parchment. "It shows the property as it was over 100 years ago. There are markings here that I don't recognize." Emma leaned in closer, her brow furrowing in concentration. "These look like old pathways and structures that aren't here anymore. Maybe we should explore these areas. There might be more to discover." Michael felt a surge of excitement. "Let's do it. Let's see what else we can uncover." They spent the rest of the day following the map, exploring the hidden corners of the property. They found remnants of old buildings, overgrown gardens, and even a hidden cellar filled with dusty bottles of wine and ancient tools. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the landscape, Michael and Emma sat on a hillside overlooking the property. They were surrounded by the artifacts and memories they had uncovered, a tangible connection to the past. "This place is filled with history," Michael said, his voice filled with wonder. "It's like a living museum of our ancestors' lives." Emma nodded, her eyes reflecting the colors of the sunset. It's more than just history, Michael. It's a reminder of the enduring connections between us all. The love, the friendships, the stories, they live on through us. Michael took her hand, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and connection. I'm so glad we did this, Emma. It's given me a new perspective on everything. Emma smiled, squeezing his hand. Me too. And it's just the beginning. There's so much more to explore, so many more stories to uncover. As the stars began to twinkle in the darkening sky, Michael and Emma sat in companionable silence, their hearts full of the mysteries they had uncovered and the promise of new discoveries yet to come. The journey they had embarked on together was one of healing, connection, and endless possibilities. The days at Harmony Hill Retreat passed in a blur of exploration and discovery. Michael and Emma spent hours delving into the mysteries of the property, their bond growing stronger with each shared revelation. As they pieced together the past, an undeniable attraction began to simmer between them, adding a new layer of complexity to their relationship. One evening, after a long day of uncovering artifacts and old records, Michael and Emma found themselves sitting by the fire pit outside the farmhouse. The crackling flames cast a warm glow, and the air was filled with the scent of burning wood and the sweet aroma of blooming flowers. Emma glanced at Michael, her eyes reflecting the firelight. It's amazing how much history we've uncovered. I feel like we've connected with something much larger than ourselves. Michael nodded, his gaze fixed on the flames. I feel it too. It's like we're part of a bigger story, one that's been waiting for us to discover it. A comfortable silence settled between them, the night filled with the sounds of nature. Michael stole a glance at Emma, his heart stirring with emotions he hadn't felt in years. She was beautiful, inside and out, and her presence had become a source of comfort and joy. But with those feelings came a pang of guilt. His love for Sarah was still strong, and the idea of moving on felt like a betrayal. Emma, he began, his voice hesitant, I need to tell you something. I'm starting to feel something for you. Something more than just friendship. But it's complicated. I still love Sarah, and I don't know if I'm ready to let go of the past. Emma turned to face him, her expression soft and understanding. Michael, it's okay to have those feelings. Loving someone new doesn't mean you have to stop loving Sarah. Your heart has room for both. Michael sighed, running a hand through his hair. I want to believe that. But every time I think about moving forward, I feel like I'm betraying her memory. Emma reached out, placing a hand on his arm. Sarah wouldn't want you to be stuck in the past, Michael. She'd want you to be happy, to find love again. I believe that with all my heart. Tears welled up in Michael's eyes as he looked at Emma. I know you're right. It's just hard to accept. But being with you, it feels right. It feels like a second chance. Emma's eyes shimmered with emotion. We don't have to rush anything. Let's take it one step at a time. See where this journey leads us. I'm here for you, Michael. No matter what. Michael felt a weight lift off his shoulders, a sense of relief and hope washing over him. Thank you, Emma. Your patience and understanding mean the world to me. They sat in silence for a while, the fire crackling softly. The night was filled with possibilities, and for the first time in a long time, Michael felt a flicker of hope for the future. As the days turned into weeks, Michael and Emma grew closer. Their bond deepened with each shared experience, and the attraction between them became increasingly undeniable. They laughed together, shared stories, and supported each other through the emotional journey of uncovering the past. One afternoon, as they worked side by side in the garden, Michael felt an overwhelming urge to express his feelings. The sun was shining, the air was filled with the scent of roses, and Emma looked radiant as she tended to the flowers. Emma, Michael said, his voice steady but filled with emotion, I need you to know how much you mean to me. You've brought light back into my life, and I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose you. Emma looked up, her eyes filled with warmth and affection. Michael, you mean the world to me too. I feel like I found a kindred spirit in you, someone who understands me on a deeper level. Michael took a deep breath, reaching out to take her hand. I want to be with you, Emma. I want to see where this path leads us, together. Emma's smile was radiant, her grip on his hand tightening. I want that too, Michael. More than anything. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, the world around them seemed to fade away. Michael leaned in, his heart pounding, and pressed his lips to Emma's. The kiss was gentle at first, a tentative exploration, but it quickly deepened into something more passionate, more intense. As they pulled away, both breathless and slightly dazed, Michael felt a sense of clarity. The past would always be a part of him, but it didn't have to define his future. With Emma by his side, he felt ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. That evening, as they sat together under the stars, Michael felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. The journey of healing and discovery had led him to Emma, and with her, he felt a renewed sense of purpose and hope. "Thank you, Emma," he said softly, his voice filled with gratitude. "For everything." Emma rested her head on his shoulder, her voice equally soft. "No, Michael, thank you for letting me in." As the night enveloped them in its embrace, Michael and Emma knew they were on the brink of a new beginning, one filled with love, hope, and endless possibilities. And for the first time in a long time, Michael felt truly alive, ready to face the future with an open heart. The morning sun bathed Harmony Hill Retreat in a warm, golden light as Michael and Emma continued their exploration of the property. They had discovered so much already, but both felt there were still more secrets waiting to be uncovered. Today, they focused on the attic of the old farmhouse, a place neither had fully explored. Climbing the narrow, creaky stairs, Michael pushed open the door to the attic, the air thick with dust and the scent of aged wood. Sunlight streamed through a small window, illuminating the space filled with old trunks, boxes, and covered furniture. "Let's start over there," Emma suggested, pointing to a large, ornate chest in the corner. The chest was covered in cobwebs and dust, but its intricate carvings hinted at the treasures within. Michael nodded, his heart pounding with anticipation. Together, they lifted the heavy lid, revealing a collection of documents and personal items carefully preserved over the years. Emma gently picked up an old, leather-bound book and opened it, her eyes widening as she read the first page. "It's a diary," she said, her voice tinged with excitement. "It belonged to Sarah Johnson." Michael leaned closer, his curiosity piqued. "What does it say?" Emma began to read aloud, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "March 3rd, 1950. Today, I met a wonderful woman named Margaret. She is kind, compassionate, and wise beyond her years. I feel an instant connection with her, as if our souls were meant to meet." Michael's heart raced as he listened, the pieces of the puzzle slowly coming together. "That's my Sarah's grandmother. There must be more here." They continued to sift through the contents of the chest, finding letters, photographs, and more diaries. Each document revealed a deeper connection between Sarah Johnson and Margaret, detailing their friendship, their shared experiences, and their dreams for the future. "Look at this," Emma said, holding up a letter. "It's from Margaret to Sarah Johnson. It talks about a secret they shared, something important." Michael took the letter, reading it carefully. "Dear Sarah, I hope this letter finds you well. I wanted to remind you of our secret plan. It's crucial that we keep it hidden, for the sake of our families. The truth must only be revealed when the time is right. Your dear friend, Margaret." Emma's eyes widened. What could they be talking about? Michael shook his head, his mind racing. "I don't know, but it sounds like it was something significant." As they continued to dig through the chest, they found more clues. There were birth certificates, marriage licenses, and old newspaper clippings. Each document seemed to hint at a deeper connection between their families. "Look at this," Michael said, holding up an old photograph. It showed Sarah Johnson and Margaret standing together, each holding a baby. "This must be Sarah's mother and Margaret's child. They look so happy." Emma's eyes filled with tears as she looked at the photograph. "It's incredible. Our families were connected long before we ever met." Michael nodded, feeling a sense of awe. It's like destiny brought us together to uncover these secrets and carry on their legacy. As they delved deeper into the chest, they found an old, leather-bound journal that seemed different from the others. Its pages were filled with detailed entries about a shared project Sarah Johnson and Margaret had worked on, a project to document their family histories and the connections between them. Emma read aloud from the journal, her voice trembling with emotion. "June 12, 1955. Margaret and I have discovered something extraordinary. Our families share a common ancestor, a brave woman who brought our families together generations ago. We must preserve this history for our descendants, so they understand the bonds that unite us. Michael's heart swelled with a mix of emotions. Emma, this journal proves it. Our families are connected in ways we never imagined. This is incredible. Emma nodded, tears streaming down her face. It's like we were meant to find each other, to continue the work they started. They spent hours reading through the journal, learning about their shared heritage and the legacy left behind by Sarah Johnson and Margaret. The more they read, the more they felt a deep sense of connection and purpose. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the attic, Michael and Emma sat together, surrounded by the documents and artifacts they had uncovered. They held hands, their bond stronger than ever. "Thank you for sharing this journey with me," Michael said, his voice filled with gratitude. "I feel like I've found a piece of myself I didn't know was missing." Emma squeezed his hand, her eyes shining with love. "We've found something incredible, Michael, and it's only the beginning. There's so much more to discover, so many more stories to uncover." Michael nodded, feeling a sense of excitement and anticipation. "We'll do it together, Emma. Whatever comes next, we'll face it side by side." As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Michael and Emma felt a sense of peace and fulfillment. They had uncovered the secrets of their past, and in doing so, had forged a path toward a brighter future. Their journey was far from over, but they knew that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together, united by the love and legacy of those who had come before them. The air was thick with anticipation as Michael and Emma pored over the documents they had found in the attic. The discoveries they had made so far hinted at a deeper, more intricate connection between their families, but they both sensed that there were still more secrets to uncover. One afternoon, while they were sorting through a particularly old and fragile set of papers, Emma came across a letter sealed in an envelope that looked different from the rest. The paper was thicker, more ornate, and the handwriting on the front was delicate and precise. Emma carefully opened the envelope and began to read aloud. "Dear Sarah," the letter began, "there is something I must tell you, something I have kept hidden for many years. It is about our lineage and the true connection between our families. You must know the truth, for it may change everything." Michael leaned closer, his heart pounding with anticipation. "What does it say, Emma?" Emma's hands trembled slightly as she continued to read. "Our great-great-grandmother Eliza was a remarkable woman. She was born to a family of wealth and privilege, but she fell in love with a man of humble origins. They had a child together, a daughter named Elizabeth, who was raised by her mother's family to protect her from scandal. That daughter is your great-grandmother." Michael's eyes widened in surprise. So Sarah and Margaret were not just friends, but distant relatives? Emma nodded, her voice trembling with emotion. "It seems so, but there's more." The letter goes on to explain that Eliza's lover, James, was actually Margaret's great-great-grandfather. Their families were united by this secret love affair, and the bond between them was kept hidden for generations. Michael felt a mixture of shock and awe. This explains so much. The connection we felt, the similarities between our families. It's all starting to make sense. Emma's eyes were filled with tears as she continued to read. "Sarah, you must understand that this secret was kept to protect both our families from scandal and to preserve our legacy. But now, as I grow older, I feel it is time for the truth to be revealed. Our families are bound by love and history, and it is up to us to honor that connection." As the weight of the revelation settled over them, Michael and Emma sat in stunned silence. The truth about their lineage and the secret love affair that had united their families was more than they had ever imagined. "Emma," Michael said softly, reaching for her hand, "this changes everything. We're not just connected by fate or coincidence. We're connected by blood, by a shared history that goes back generations." Emma nodded, her eyes shining with tears. "It's overwhelming, but it also feels right. Like we were meant to find each other and uncover these secrets together." Michael squeezed her hand, feeling a deep sense of connection and purpose. "We have to honor this legacy, Emma. We have to preserve these stories and make sure they're never forgotten." Emma smiled through her tears. We will, Michael. Together, we'll ensure that the love and history of our families live on. As they continued to explore the documents, they found more letters and diaries that detailed the secret relationship between Eliza and James. Their love story was one of passion and defiance, a testament to the strength of their bond despite the societal norms that sought to keep them apart. One diary entry from Eliza stood out to Emma. April 12, 1865. Today, I met James by the riverbank, our secret place. We spoke of our dreams and the future we longed for, a future where our love could be free. Though the world may never understand, our hearts are united, and that is enough for me. Emma read the entry aloud, her voice breaking with emotion. They were so brave, Michael. They loved each other despite everything, and their love has endured through us. Michael nodded, his heart full. Their story is a part of us, Emma. It's a part of our story now. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the attic, Michael and Emma sat surrounded by the artifacts and documents that had revealed their shared history. The secrets of the past had been brought to light, and with them came a sense of closure and a new beginning. We should create a family archive, Emma suggested, her eyes bright with determination. A place where we can preserve all these documents and stories so future generations can know where they came from. Michael smiled, feeling a surge of pride and love. That's a wonderful idea, Emma. We'll make sure our family's legacy is never forgotten. In the quiet of the attic, with the secrets of the past laid bare before them, Michael and Emma felt a profound sense of unity and purpose. Their journey of discovery had brought them closer together, and the truth about their lineage had deepened their bond in ways they could never have imagined. As they looked out over the property, the stars beginning to twinkle in the evening sky, Michael and Emma knew that their love and the legacy of their families would endure, shining brightly for generations to come. The tension in the air was palpable as Michael paced back and forth in the garden, the discoveries they had made swirling in his mind. He had spent the last few days piecing together the intricate web of connections between their families, and now he needed answers. Emma was inside the farmhouse, organizing the documents they had found, unaware of the storm brewing within him. With a deep breath, Michael decided it was time to confront Emma. He walked into the farmhouse, finding her at the dining table, surrounded by old letters and photographs. She looked up, her eyes lighting up with a smile that quickly faded when she saw the serious expression on his face. "Michael, what's wrong?" she asked, her voice tinged with concern. Michael took a deep breath, trying to steady his emotions. "Emma, we need to talk. I've been thinking a lot about everything we've discovered. The letters, the diaries, our family's connection. There are so many secrets, and I feel like I don't know the whole truth." Emma's eyes widened, a mixture of fear and understanding crossing her face. "What do you mean?" Michael pulled out the letter they had found, the one revealing the secret lineage between their families. This letter, the one that talks about Eliza and James, it changes everything. Our families are connected in ways I never imagined. But there's something more, isn't there? Something you haven't told me. Emma looked down at the table, her hands trembling slightly. "Michael, I've wanted to tell you everything, but I didn't know how. There's a truth I've been keeping from you, and it's time you knew." Michael's heart pounded in his chest as he waited for her to continue. Emma took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "My grandmother, Margaret, she told me a secret before she died," Emma began, her voice barely above a whisper. "She told me that Eliza and James had another child, a son, who was raised by another family to keep him safe from scandal. That son was my great-grandfather." Michael felt a chill run down his spine. "So, you're saying we're not just distant relatives. We're directly connected through Eliza and James?" Emma nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "Yes, our families have been intertwined for generations, but it's more than that, Michael. Margaret believed that our meeting was destined, that we were meant to continue the legacy of love and unity that Eliza and James started." Michael's mind raced as he processed this new information. "So all this time, we've been uncovering our own family history, not just the history of two connected families?" Emma reached out, taking his hands in hers. "Yes, Michael. We're part of the same family, bound by the same legacy. I know it's a lot to take in, but I believe it's brought us together for a reason." Michael looked into Emma's eyes, seeing the depth of her emotions and the sincerity of her words. "Why didn't you tell me sooner, Emma? Why keep it a secret?" Emma's voice broke with emotion. "I was afraid, Michael. Afraid that knowing the truth would change how you felt about me, about us. But I couldn't keep it from you any longer. You deserve to know everything." Michael felt a mix of anger, confusion, and a strange sense of relief. "I wish you had told me sooner, but I understand why you didn't. This changes so much, but it also explains a lot." Emma nodded, her tears spilling over. "I'm so sorry, Michael. I never meant to deceive you. I just wanted to protect you, to protect us." Michael pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. "We'll figure this out together, Emma. We've come too far to let this tear us apart." As they held each other, the weight of their shared history settled around them. The revelations of the past had brought them closer together, but also added a new layer of complexity to their relationship. They knew that the path ahead would be challenging, but they were determined to face it together. Later that evening, as they sat by the fire pit, Michael and Emma talked about their plans for the future. They decided to create a family archive, a place where they could preserve all the documents and artifacts they had found, ensuring that their family's legacy would be remembered and honored. "We'll make sure that our story and the stories of those who came before us are never forgotten," Michael said, his voice filled with determination. Emma smiled, her eyes shining with love and hope. "Together, we'll build something beautiful, something that honors our past and looks forward to the future." As the flames danced and the stars twinkled overhead, Michael and Emma felt a renewed sense of purpose. The secrets of the past had been revealed, but they were ready to embrace the challenges and joys of the future, hand in hand. The morning sun cast a warm glow over Harmony Hill Retreat as Michael and Emma prepared for a significant journey. Today, they were visiting Sarah's grave, a pilgrimage Michael had long avoided. With Emma by his side, he hoped to find closure and begin the healing process that had eluded him for so many years. As they drove to the cemetery, the landscape rolled by in a blur of green and gold. The silence between them was comfortable, filled with unspoken understanding and support. Emma reached over and took Michael's hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "Are you ready?" she asked softly, her eyes filled with compassion. Michael nodded, though his heart was heavy. "I think so. It's time I faced this." When they arrived at the cemetery, the atmosphere was serene and peaceful. Birds chirped in the distance, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the old oak trees that lined the path. Michael led Emma to Sarah's grave, the familiar path stirring a flood of memories. As they approached, Michael's steps slowed, his heart pounding in his chest. Sarah's headstone was simple yet elegant, adorned with fresh flowers someone had recently placed there. He knelt beside it, his fingers tracing the engraved letters of her name. "Hi, Sarah," he began, his voice breaking. "It's been a while." Emma stood a few steps back, giving Michael the space he needed. She watched as he closed his eyes, taking a deep breath, and then began to speak again. "I've been through a lot since you've been gone. I've struggled, I've been lost, but I've also found something new. Someone new." He glanced back at Emma, who smiled encouragingly. "I know you'd want me to be happy, to move on, but it's been so hard without you." He paused, the weight of his grief heavy on his shoulders. "But I've realized something, Sarah. Loving Emma doesn't mean I have to stop loving you. You'll always be a part of me, and nothing can change that. Emma has helped me see that it's okay to let go of the pain, to open my heart again." Michael felt a sense of release as he spoke, the burden of his grief beginning to lift. "I'll never forget you, Sarah. You'll always be my first love, and I'll carry you with me forever. But it's time for me to live again, to find happiness and peace." He stood, feeling lighter than he had in years. Emma stepped forward, wrapping her arms around him in a comforting embrace. "I'm proud of you, Michael," she whispered. Sarah would be too. They stood together for a moment, the silence around them filled with a sense of tranquility and resolution. Michael felt a profound sense of peace, as if Sarah's spirit was with him, guiding him toward a new beginning. As they walked back to the car, Michael took one last look at Sarah's grave, feeling a mixture of sadness and hope. "Thank you for everything, Sarah," he said quietly. "I'll make you proud." The drive back to Harmony Hill was filled with a sense of renewal. Michael and Emma talked about their plans for the future, the projects they wanted to undertake, and the memories they wanted to create together. The past was still a part of them, but it no longer held them captive. That evening, as they sat by the fire pit, Michael felt a deep sense of gratitude. "Thank you, Emma, for being with me today. It meant more to me than you can imagine." Emma smiled, her eyes reflecting the warmth of the fire. "You don't have to thank me, Michael. We're in this together. Always." Michael leaned in, kissing her gently. "I'm starting to believe that everything happens for a reason. Meeting you, uncovering our shared history, it's all led us to this moment." Emma nodded, her hand resting on his cheek. "And it's just the beginning, Michael. There's so much more ahead of us." As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Michael felt a sense of contentment and anticipation. The journey of acceptance and healing was far from over, but with Emma by his side, he knew he was ready to face whatever came next. In the quiet of the night, surrounded by the beauty of Harmony Hill, Michael and Emma found solace in each other's arms. The past had been acknowledged and honored, and now they could look to the future with hope and love. Their journey together was just beginning, and it was filled with endless possibilities. The fire crackled softly as they sat in comfortable silence, their hearts beating in sync. Michael felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years, a feeling of home that he had longed for. With Emma, he had found more than just love. He had found a partner, a confidant, and a new beginning. And as they sat under the canopy of stars, Michael knew that Sarah's spirit would always be with him, guiding him toward a future filled with love, hope, and endless possibilities. The sun rose over Harmony Hill Retreat, casting a warm golden glow over the landscape as Michael and Emma prepared for a new day. Their journey together had been filled with revelations and emotions, but now, standing on the threshold of a new beginning, they felt ready to embrace the future. Michael stood by the window, watching the sunlight filter through the trees. He took a deep breath, feeling a sense of peace and determination. Emma approached him, her presence a comforting balm. "Good morning," she said softly, wrapping her arms around him from behind. Michael turned, smiling as he pulled her into a gentle embrace. "Good morning. I was just thinking about everything we've been through. It feels like we've finally come full circle." Emma nodded, her eyes reflecting his emotions. "It does. And now we can start building something new together." They spent the morning walking through the garden, discussing their plans for the future. The garden had become a symbol of growth and renewal for them, a place where they could nurture their dreams and honor the past. "Let's create a space where we can preserve our family's history," Emma suggested, her eyes bright with excitement. "A small museum or archive, where we can display all the documents and artifacts we've found." Michael smiled, loving the idea. "That sounds perfect. We can share our family's story with others and ensure that their legacy is remembered." As they walked, they talked about the practical steps they would need to take to turn their dream into reality. They discussed renovations to the farmhouse, creating a dedicated space for the archive, and even holding community events to share their discoveries. Later that day, they began sorting through the documents and artifacts they had found, organizing them into categories and planning their displays. The process was cathartic, a way of honoring the past while looking forward to the future. "I think we should have a grand opening," Michael said, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "Invite the community, share our story, and celebrate the connections we've discovered." Emma agreed, her heart swelling with pride. "It will be a wonderful way to bring everyone together and share the journey we've been on." As they worked, they found joy in the small moments, laughing at old photographs, marveling at the intricacy of a hand-embroidered handkerchief, and sharing stories about their ancestors. That evening, they sat on the porch, watching the sun set over the hills. The sky was painted with hues of pink and gold, a beautiful backdrop to their dreams. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" Michael said, his voice filled with wonder. Emma nodded, resting her head on his shoulder. "We have, and we've done it together. I can't imagine a better partner for this journey." Michael kissed her forehead, feeling a deep sense of contentment. "Me neither. You've brought so much light into my life, Emma. I'm grateful for every moment with you." Emma looked up at him, her eyes shining with love. "And I'm grateful for you, Michael. Together, we've turned our pain into something beautiful." As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, they made a promise to each other to honor the past, to cherish the present, and to look forward to the future with hope and love. The days that followed were filled with hard work and joy. Michael and Emma threw themselves into their project, transforming the farmhouse into a beautiful space that honored their family's legacy. They painted walls, built shelves, and carefully arranged the artifacts and documents they had collected. Word spread through the community about their project, and soon, neighbors and friends began to offer their support. People donated old family heirlooms, shared stories of their ancestors, and offered their skills to help with the renovations. The grand opening of their family archive was a resounding success. The farmhouse was filled with laughter and excitement as people explored the exhibits, marveled at the history on display, and shared their own family stories. Michael and Emma stood at the center of it all, their hearts full as they watched the community come together. They knew that this was just the beginning of their journey, but it was a beginning filled with hope and promise. As the evening drew to a close, they stood together on the porch, holding hands and looking out over the property. The stars shone brightly overhead, a reminder of the infinite possibilities that lay ahead. "We did it," Michael said softly, his voice filled with pride. Emma smiled, leaning into him. "We did, and there's so much more to come. I can't wait to see what the future holds for us." Michael kissed her, a gentle promise of love and commitment. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together. Always." With the past honored and the future bright, Michael and Emma knew that their love and their shared journey had only just begun. They were ready to embrace whatever came next, secure in the knowledge that they had found their way home, to each other, to their family's legacy, and to a future filled with endless possibilities. If you enjoyed the story, subscribe, like, and comment, and check out the next story.